Have you ever noticed how some people work twice as hard but have nothing to show for it, while others seem to breeze through life? Meet Akin. He was the hardest working blacksmith in his village. But every time he got close to a big breakthrough, everything would suddenly fall apart. If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my folktale story from. I want to know how far it has traveled. Akin was a strong man. His arms were built from years of hitting hot iron. From sunrise to sunset, the sound of his hammer rang through the village. People respected his strength, but they secretly pitied him. Why? Because despite his heavy sweat, his pockets were always empty. Other men who barely worked lived like kings. They built big houses and bought fine clothes. Akin, on the other hand, stayed completely stagnant. It was like a dark cloud followed him. He would get an order to make 20 swords for the king's guards. But the night before delivery, a fire would burn down his shop. Or he would find a rare metal to sell, only for it to be stolen on the way to the market. He was always one step away from changing his life, but the step always broke under his feet. It was deeply frustrating. Akin did not live alone. He shared his small home with his younger brother, Femi. They were blood brothers, and their bond was very tight. Since their parents passed away, Akin took it upon himself to look after Femi. Because of this deep love, Akin hid nothing from him. He told Femi every single detail of his life. If Akin got a new customer, Femi was the first to know. If Akin had an idea for a new tool, and he rushed home to explain it to Femi. They would sit by the fire, eating their small evening meal, and Akin would map out his dreams. "Soon we will be rich, my brother," Akin would say. "I just got a promise from the village chief to make all the farming tools next season." Femi would smile and cheer for him. Femi was not a bad person. He loved his older brother and wanted him to succeed. But what neither of them knew was something hidden deep in the spiritual world. Femi unknowingly carried what the elders call a destiny killer energy. It was not a curse he asked for. It was simply the nature of his spirit. Whenever someone shared their hopes or plans with him, that plan was instantly doomed to fail. Good news turned to dust the moment it entered Femi's ears. Things reached a breaking point during the festival of the harvest. A rich merchant from a faraway city came to the village. He saw a beautiful iron gate that Akin had made years ago. The merchant was so impressed that he offered Akin the biggest job of his life. He wanted Akin to build 3 giant iron gates for his new mansion. He gave Akin a large bag of gold coins as an advance payment. Akin could not believe his eyes. He ran all the way home, his heart beating with wild joy. He pushed the door open and shouted, "Femi, we are finally rich! Look at this gold!" He poured the coins on the table and explained the whole plan. He told Femi exactly how he would buy the best iron, hire helpers, and finish the job in 1 month. Femi hugged him, jumping up and down with happiness. But the very next morning, the tragedy happened. The rich merchant suddenly died in his sleep. His family canceled all his orders and demanded the gold coins back. Just like that, Akin's breakthrough vanished into thin air. He was forced to return the money. He sat in his empty workshop, crying like a baby. He looked at his scarred hands and wondered why the world was so cruel to him. He knew he could not continue living like this. He needed answers before his heart broke completely. Akin realized that normal hard work was no longer enough. His problem was not normal, so the solution could not be normal. The next day, he closed his empty workshop and walked into the deep forest. He was going to see the old wise man who lived at the edge of the Whispering Woods. This wise man was known for seeing things that normal eyes could never see. When Akin arrived, the wise man was sitting by a small fire. Akin fell to his knees and poured out his heavy heart. He explained how he worked harder than anyone else, but stayed poor. He told the wise man about the king's swords, the rare metal, and the rich merchant's sudden death. "Every time I am close to a breakthrough, it fails," Akin cried. "It is so delicate. It slips through my fingers like water. Why is my destiny cursed?" The wise man did not speak right away. He threw some dry leaves and cowrie shells into the fire. The flames turned bright blue. He closed his eyes and consulted the spirits. The silence in the hut was heavy and tense. Finally, the wise man opened his eyes. He looked at Akin with a very serious expression. He had seen the root of the problem. He saw how Akin's hard work was being swallowed by an invisible force. The wise man sighed deeply, in knowing that the truth he was about to reveal would be very hard for the strong blacksmith to swallow. "You are not cursed by the gods," the wise man said slowly. "Your hands are blessed, but your mouth is your greatest enemy." Akin looked confused. He was a quiet man outside his home. The wise man continued, "There is a strict rule you have broken your whole life. You announce your moves before you make them. You are surrounded by an energy that kills destinies. When your plans are spoken out loud, they are swallowed by this energy." The wise man did not say the energy came from his brother, Femi. He simply warned him about sharing his plans. "You must make a sacrifice to clear your path," the wise man instructed. "But there is a strict warning, a rule you must never break. From this day forward, you must never tell anyone about your plans or what you are doing. Not your friends, not your family, not anyone. Let your results speak, not your tongue. If you break this rule, you will remain a failure forever." Akin thanked the wise man and walked back to the village. His mind was racing. He thought about his brother, Femi. He realized that Femi was the only person he told everything to. He loved his blood brother deeply, but he also knew he had to follow the wise man's strict rule if he wanted to survive. Akin returned to his hut. Femi was waiting at the door, eager to hear the news. "What did the wise man say? How do we break the curse?" Femi asked quickly. Akin looked at his brother. He loved Femi so much, but he remembered the strict warning. For the first time in his life, Akin smiled, but said nothing about the truth. Instead, he simply said, "Pack your things, Femi. We are moving to a new city." Femi was very shocked. "Moving? Where are we going? What is the plan? Do you have a new customer waiting for us?" Akin felt a strong urge to tell Femi everything. He wanted to explain his hopes for the new city, but he forced his mouth closed. He looked at his brother and said calmly, "You will find out when we get there." Femi was confused. This was not like Akin at all. Usually, Akin would talk all night about their plans, but Femi trusted his older brother. Without asking more questions, Femi packed their few clothes and tools. Before the sun came up the next morning, the two brothers quietly left the village. Akin did not tell anyone they were leaving, not even their neighbors. They walked for days through the thick forest, heading toward a strange land. Akin was finally learning the power of keeping his destiny a secret. When they finally arrived in the new city, it was very loud and busy. There were many merchants and rich people. Akin found a small, quiet corner on the edge of the market and set up his forge. In the past, Akin would have walked around the market, announcing his skills to everyone. He would have bragged about the strong swords and beautiful gates he could make. But this time, he stayed completely silent. He just lit his fire and started hitting the hot iron. He worked with his head down. Femi stood by his side, helping to fan the flames. After a few days, a passing farmer noticed a strong hoe Akin had made. The farmer bought it immediately. The next day, that same farmer returned with 3 of his friends. They all wanted tools. Femi was so excited. Akin, this is great! How much money do you think we will make this month? What should we do with the profits? Femi asked. Akin smiled softly, but he remembered the wise man's rule. He did not say a word about his future plans or the money he hoped to save. We will just focus on today's work, Akin replied simply. Because Akin kept his plans hidden, the invisible destiny killer energy inside Femi had nothing to attack. The curse was broken. Slowly, things started to change in a wonderful way. Without Akin's mouth destroying his hard work, blessings started pouring in like heavy rain. Everything Akin touched seemed to turn to success. The people in the new city had never seen a blacksmith as hard-working and skilled as Akin. They started blessing the work of his hands. Finally, Akin was reaping the true reward of his hard labor. Before he could even finish making one set of tools, another big job was already being given to him. A wealthy builder asked him to make heavy iron doors. Then, the city's guards asked for 50 sharp swords. The money came in fast, but Akin remained very quiet about it. He never counted his gold in front of Femi. He never told his brother what his next big project would be. He just woke up, worked hard, and let the finished results speak for themselves. Because of this silence, they became very wealthy. They moved out of the small shop and bought a very large house. They had enough food, fine clothes, and respect from the whole city. Femi was so happy, even though he never knew what Akin was planning next. Akin realized the wise man was completely right. His destiny was too delicate to be spoken about. By keeping his mouth shut, Akin finally protected his future. His hands built the wealth, and his silence kept it safe. The morale of Akin's story is very clear and powerful. You must learn how to keep things to yourself. We often want to share our excitement, our new jobs, and our big plans with the people we love. But you do not know the spiritual makeup of the people around you. Some people carry a destiny killer energy without even knowing it. Femi was not an evil brother. He did not hate Akin. In fact, he loved him dearly and wanted him to succeed. But Femi's spirit simply destroyed whatever good news was spoken into his ears. This is why the wise man did not say, "Do not tell your brother." He gave a strict warning to not tell anyone at all. Some destinies are not allowed to announce themselves. If you shout about your big plans before they happen, and everything might turn into a failure. You need to take a moment to examine your own life and discover yourself. Think about your past experiences. When you shout about something you want to do, does it actually work out? Or does it only work when you keep it to yourself and move quietly? Stop oversharing your goals. Do not let your mouth destroy what your hands are trying to build. Silence is often the missing key to true success. Your answer to that question might just change your life forever. Not everyone is meant to know your next move. Protect your peace, protect your energy, and let your finished results make all the noise. Just like Akin the blacksmith, you might be one silent move away from the greatest breakthrough of your entire life. Has talking too soon ever cost you a big opportunity? Drop your own story in the comments below. The story you have just heard is a beautiful African tale I heard long ago. I'm telling you to wake your minds to wisdom, self-control, and how we should protect our fragile dreams while still caring for those we love. If you were Akin, what vow would you keep? Would you choose to talk to please others and lose it all? Or would you move in total silence and find your own blessing along the way? I want to know your opinion because every story is like a candle that can light the path for someone else.